Here with Virginia Johnson, the artistic director of the Dance Theater of Harlem, on the eve of the Joyce season for the Dance Theater of Harlem 2. And thank you for taking the time out to talk to us about the upcoming season.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm very excited about what's ahead.
Now, this season marks really the first time that the Dance Theater of Harlem 2 will not only perform at the Joyce, but really make a New York debut.
Yes. You know, Dance Theater of Harlem has been away from the performance scene for the past 8 years. The Dance Theater of Harlem Company went on hiatus or was closed in 2004. About 4 years ago, Arthur Mitchell, Keith Saunders, Levine Naidoo had the realization that without the performing presence of a company, that people were forgetting about Dance Theater of Harlem. We were starting to disappear in people's imaginations. So they created this group of dancers out of the school, very talented young people, gave them the opportunity to go out on the road, do some touring, do some audience engagement, really hone their skills as performers and as technicians, as performing artists by doing performances. So this company is the Dance Theater of Harlem 2. We call it the Dance Theater of Harlem Ensemble, except when they're at the Joyce. It's a group of aspiring artists. And in the 2 years that I've been here as artistic director, I've seen a tremendous amount of growth from this group of dancers. I felt like when I came in, I saw a group of students who were hoping to be dancers. And by giving them a challenging repertoire and making sure that they're out on the road and asking them to be responsible for their performance, their development as artists, I feel like they've grown to the point that I'm very proud to present them here in New York.
You know, as an artistic director, what I find very unique about what you're doing is you're not approaching this as artistic director / choreographer. You're really approaching this almost as a producer, putting together a company and a repertoire that represents the new Dance Theater of Harlem.
Absolutely. You know, Walter, before Arthur Mitchell asked me to step into this role, this is the last job I ever wanted. It's not something that I felt that I had any knack for or interest in. It's a very interesting job. Interesting is a code word. It's a little difficult. I feel like I was a performing artist, that I had something to say as an individual, but the idea of being an artistic director was something that I hadn't considered. I too thought about it, well, you know, I'm not a choreographer. What am I going to go into that place and put on the stage? But look at the freedom I have. I don't have to worry about my works. I have to figure out, okay, what are we trying to say with Dance Theater of Harlem? And who am I going to get to help me say it? And it gives me a lot of freedom to say, we need a little bit of this, we need a little bit of that, we should add this in there. I can step out of it because I have no personal involvement with what's on the stage except how these dancers are performing it and who is bringing a message to the stage. So it gives me a chance to really shape what this institution is saying in a way that I wouldn't be able to do if I had to present my own work.
So in this Joyce season, we mentioned Donald Byrd.
Yes.
And what a wonderful artist he is and how he challenges the dancers.
Challenges them very much. He does. I think that they didn't know how hard they had to work. They thought they were working hard. And he was letting them know, well, no, that's not really hard work yet. But it was a good thing because, and dancers like to be challenged. So they met him. You know, we had some hairy days, but you know, we got to that point where, okay, I'm pushing you, you're pushing me, and so you end up with this wonderful work. It's thrilling. Performers are explorers. That you're not there to do something that you know. You're there to find out something that you couldn't have imagined, and then to live in that exalted place. So anybody who feels like, oh, I've got it, is not anybody that you want to see on the stage. Because they're not bringing anything. There's no electricity, there's no danger, there's no, okay, look. It's an act of faith, and it's an act of will to make a performance happen. You know, you get a choreographer like Donald Byrd, he really puts you on the edge of that cliff. You know, but you want to be on the edge of the cliff. You don't want to be back there safe and comfortable. Why do that? It's too hard to do something comfortable. Doing a work by Balanchine that is seldom seen, the Glinka Pas de Trois. And that was another work that I very specifically brought in to challenge the dancers. Dance Theatre of Harlem has a tremendous neoclassical legacy. When the first ballet that we learned back in 1970 was Concerto Barocco. Mr. Balanchine was our godfather in a certain sense, and he gave to us Concerto Barocco and Agon for us to cut our teeth on. So this is a good place to understand what it is. Those are very pristine, very powerful works, and you can't hide a single thing in them.
No.
So with bringing Glinka to the ensemble, I really wanted them to, again, address the particulars of neoclassical dancing. It is a matter of, you have all of your classical technique, you have all of your use of your turnout and your articulation and the use of your arms and the coordination, but you also have the rhythmic specificity that Balanchine brought to using these pieces of 19th century romantic music. So it's a piece of music that's very la la la, but he's got something going on inside of it. So, this is a subtle thing. You don't do that with students. You do that with people that are stepping up to be first artists. And so giving them the challenge of understanding, oh yeah, you gotta get the technique right. The technique has gotta be right. We're not looking at the technique. We're looking at how you're addressing the material. And that's what first artists do. So, push.
Even though this is 2012, and...
God, it's 2012.
Already, yes. And we've come a long way since 1968. But still there is a real dearth of minority performers in ballet companies in America.
I think that and it's a question that I completely ponder often, because certainly when I was coming up and they said to me, oh, you can't be a ballet dancer, there are no blacks in ballet, and they sent me off to be a modern dancer. I thought, okay, well, Arthur Mitchell's created this company to change people's minds, and a lot of minds have changed, but there's a persistence in the expectation of what this art form of ballet is that I think is unfortunate. I think that people are putting it into a very tiny box, and there are people who still can't see us in this art form. But this art form is much bigger than they imagine, and we are going to do this. We are doing this. We'll continue to expand it. One of the things that's exciting to me now, I sit up there in my office and I get a call from an artistic director and he says, I'm really looking for some black dancers. I want to have a dancer in my company. I want to have dancers of color in my company. I want my company to reflect the community that I'm performing in. I'm looking for a way. So at least I'm beginning to hear the intellectual thought that ballet isn't this exclusive thing that's going to belong to this elite class of people, and it's going to look like 8 little girls with blonde buns and they're all exactly the same. There's beginning to be a change. Very slow change. But you know what? It's got to go very deep into an organization for you to understand that it's not just that I think it would be a good idea to have dancers of color in my company. You've got to talk to your teachers. You've got to talk to your receptionists. You've got to talk to the people who are, interfacing with your community in every single way, and have them understand that you are embracing diversity. It's not enough for somebody to sit in an office and say, I want a black dancer, so I have somebody to say. You've got to say, my organization is about understanding how this looks, not how that looks in that way. There's a huge sea change that's got to happen. I'm happy to hear that the idea is there, but the practice, you've heard our lecture demonstration, ballet is about creating line. So you have all this wonderful hue, and then you have pink legs. Where's the line? Where's the unified statement with that? Why do pink tights come into existence in the first place? Because white people look pink. So if you're going to have brown people, then you have to have brown legs. It's got to match. We're doing auditions right now, and we have, fortunately, we've seen some lovely African American dancers or Hispanic dancers walk in the room, and they walk in the room in those pink tights and those pink shoes, and they don't look their best, but they don't know, they are not in an environment where they can wear flesh-colored tights. That's what I'm talking about. In practice, you've got to go into the basic, everyday organizational operations and say, we believe that it's about creating the opportunity for people, whoever they are, if you have the material. Ballet is very exclusive in many ways, but it doesn't need to be racially exclusive. You need to have feet that point. You need to have a flexible back so you can make arabesque. You need to have flexible hips so you can do développé. I mean, those are proper restrictions. Color of skin is not.
And you did Songs of the Auvergne
Oh wow! Oh
Do you remember
yes,
that?
I
That was
do.
a
Wow.
long time ago. And the beauty in that was what I learned from you, other than you had a great sense of humor. And you took what you did seriously and didn't take yourself seriously in that moment, which I think is a wonderful trait for an artist to have. But there was attention to detail. They went beyond technique.
Mm.
And just the simple things you did that you could see that they had been thought out. And to me, those are the kind of qualities when you did Giselle, and you had other moments, Fall River Legend, where the qualities had to transcend technique.
Right.
And I know that's some of what we're talking about now.
Absolutely.
But it's also one of the true gifts that you have.
I think everybody could have it. I think that, I think we get very preoccupied with technique, with whether we're turned out and whether we have 8 pirouettes and whether our leg is back here. I think we focus on those things, and they're so the least important, the least interesting parts of being a dancer. You can't do without them. We see people on the stage who don't have the technique, and then that's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But at a certain level, you have to assume that your baseline is here, and everything you do is standing on that surface as an act of freedom. Technique frees you. It's not your prison. And too many dancers, too many of our students, too many of our young artists who want to be stars are in the prison of perfecting their technique. And they never get to the point where they go, this is a communicative art. This is not about doing something like a Xerox machine. This is not a machine replicating a series of combinations. This is somebody telling something very important to someone else, one-on-one, even in a house of thousands, that is much more important than whether I did my pirouettes. And our focus is far too much these days on, I did my 80 pirouettes.
So where do you see 2013? Because this is a milestone, but I think that's going to be a bigger milestone in the sense of bringing the company back to the stage.
Well, here we are, 2012, and we are auditioning for the company right now. Company auditions will begin in August of this year, and we will start touring in the late fall of 2012. 2013 will be our first New York season here in New York City. Say it one more time, New York season. So the big trick is that people have a memory of Dance Theatre of Harlem as a company, and that memory is pretty exalted. So we've got a very steep mountain to climb quickly. But that's why I pushed these Dance Theatre of Harlem 2 dancers to become better artists, stronger artists, because they're our nucleus. They're going to be that core CRE of the Dance Theatre of Harlem company. So we have a group of people who've worked together for a long period of time. I mean, what is a ballet company after all?
Right.
Who have an understanding of what the style and energy is. And then we bring in some more dancers who are of that level and higher, so that when we get them in the studio, I can't wait for August 2012 to see these people in the studio all together, so they can make that thing happen again.